In this episode of All In with Allie, we are going to talk about Instagram growth, or really any platform. You can apply to all this to pretty much any platform, but I'm going to be all the way real with you in this episode. And I'm going to explain to you why the issue is likely not the fact that you have a small audience. And the goal, at least for right now, should not be to be growing your audience. We're going to talk about what the real issue is, and we're going to get all into it, okay? But of course, while we're here, we are going to get into growth. I am going to give you tips, and I'm even going to give you some hacks on pitching yourself for collaborations and podcast episodes and a lot of fun things like that, all right? So let's get into it. Welcome to All In with Allie podcast, the podcast for online business owners and entrepreneurs who are ready to create the life and business of their dreams. I am so happy you are here. So, okay, I get this question a lot, and lately this has been happening a lot. Like, this used to be all of our biggest goal, like ever, was to grow, especially on Instagram, especially on TikTok. That's like the thing, that was the currency, was how many followers. And then that kind of died down. And I thought that we were kind of like getting to an understanding of what the real goal is, which is always engagement, which is always sales. And usually we don't need a huge audience to have a beautiful, sustainable, wildly successful business. But I don't know what's going on. All of a sudden, it's like a numbers game again. And that's fine. Like, you can have whatever goal you want. I am not here to tell you what to dream. But the only issue I have is when people mistakenly assume that that's the missing piece of the puzzle for them, right? They think, okay, business is not going very well. This isn't really working in the way that I want it to work. So, okay, instead of like really going inward and asking myself, am I really doing the things that I could be doing every single day to have business running in the way that I want it to? Or how's my content? Or do I have funnels in place? Or how often do I sell? Like the real business questions we should be asking, it tends to default to, well, it just must be my audience. I've pitched a couple of things. I've launched a couple of things. People didn't buy. People said that they couldn't afford it. So my whole audience must be just a bunch of broke people that don't want to do what I have to sell. So I need a whole new audience. And it's like, no, usually that's not the case. Or somebody is like, well, I only have X amount of followers and I want this size business. So, and I'm already, I have this size business. I'm doing this in sales. Like, this is how big my business is. So in order for my business to double or triple in size, in revenue, then I need to double, triple my audience. And the answer usually is no. So here's the thing. The real question that should be asked, instead of asking ourselves, how do I grow more followers? The question that we really should be asking ourselves always as business owners is, how do I increase my engagement and relationship with the people who are already there? And how do I get them to buy from me again and again and again? Because what I have found is when you can master that, when you can master selling and building trust and getting a certain level of traction with the people who are already there, then we can expand that. Then we have something to work with. But the issue with rushing to the audience part is, if you're doing it and you're not covering the rest of your bases, then you're growing prematurely. Then you're focusing on the wrong thing. And then you're getting a bunch of people, maybe in a healthy way, maybe in a not healthy way, to come and follow you. But your brand and your business isn't ready. So now you've just wasted a ton of your time and you have a bunch of new people looking at you and you're not doing anything, or you're not playing at the level that you want your results to be. So it becomes this self-fulfilling cycle. And then I think that's when it gets really bad, where it's just, again, chasing more and more and more people. Then it's like, maybe I should run ads. Maybe I should take out a billboard. Maybe I should pay to be in that magazine. And it's like, do whatever you want. All of those options are there for a reason, but be smart about it. So I think where we should start this conversation is with a really quick update on how the algorithm works. And this is pretty much across the board, across all platforms. They all have their little differences, but for the most part, here's like the simplest way to put it. Okay. Whatever platform that you're on. And by the way, this is really important because, again, a lot of people, they prioritize growth and they're willing to do damn near anything for more people, like, weird giveaways, or I don't even know if buying followers is a thing. If it is, don't you dare ever do it. To maybe running ads prematurely. They go not a very smart way about it. They grow really fast, and then their engagement is even worse than what it was to start with. And that does nothing for you. If your engagement is trash, nobody's going to see what it is that you're selling, and it's going to hurt your business even more. So let's just do a quick little recap and reminder on how algorithms work. So algorithms, or platforms that have algorithms in place for business, whether it's X, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, they are going to prioritize content that's getting engagement. Always. Why? Because if we are seeing, because if a piece of content is getting engagement, that usually means there's a reason why, right? If a bunch of people are engaging on a piece of content, that means that for some reason it's high quality or polarizing or attention grabbing, which means that we are going to be staying on that app longer. And it also will show you like more content that you specifically engage with, right? So like if you engage a lot with your friends and family, or certain type of businesses or certain type of creators, you're likely going to see more of their stuff in your algorithm, because that tells whatever platform you're on that that's the type of content you want to see. So if they push you more of that content, you'll stay on the app longer, you'll spend more money, their ad partners will be happier, everybody is going to be all around richer and more successful because you're staying on the app longer because you were shown the right content. So how we get the algorithm to work in our favor is we make sure that we are creating high quality content that's actually working in the sphere, in the current client of social media or whatever platform it is that you're on, right? There's different seasons to this. There's different trends. There's different, like for a while on Instagram, the thing to do was static posts. Now it's reels, right? Like you got to play the game a little bit. So how you hack it in your favor is you learn how to create the high quality content in the right way, in ways that's going to get engagement from the type of people that you want looking at your stuff, which are your potential customers. Now, there also is a ratio that you need to be aware of. So, and this is all like hearsay, this is kind of, it's general knowledge, but Instagram's always changing up the algorithm. TikTok's always changing up. They're all like, this is what they do, because if we learned how to hack the algorithm, we'd all be bored. We'd move on. This is how they keep us addicted. So there's a ratio that we need to worry about, right? So like we have a certain amount of engagement and we have a certain amount of followers right now. And that is kind of like a baseline for our quality of content, right? Like you have an average of engagement that you get on your content right now. And if your content gets a little bit more engagement, it's going to get more likes. Then engagement begets engagement. The more engagement it gets, the more that Instagram or whatever platform is going to feed it out to more people. And that's going to continue to grow the engagement. So you have this baseline based on your audience size and based on the average amount of engagement you get currently. But if you were overnight to all of a sudden grow ton more followers, hundreds, thousands more followers because you did something to do that, you know. And I'm not talking about getting lucky and going viral, although that is one way to do it. But let's say you bought followers, or you ran some ad, or I don't know how else you would do this, but like, regardless, you don't want to do it because then you're changing that ratio, right? Now there's a bigger gap with the ratio of your followers to your engagement. And that the larger the gap of your followers to your engagement, that shows that platform that your content's kind of fallen off a little bit. So it's going to be deprioritized. So if you're a business owner and you literally bank on the right people seeing your content so that they want to buy from you, and then your engagement plummets, we're in trouble. Okay. And we can get it back up. And Instagram, you know, just like entrepreneurship, engagement's always going to ebb and flow. So if you're having a moment where the algorithm hates your guts, it's cool. We've all been there. It'll come back around. Just keep doing what you're doing and what you know how to do well. But this is why fast growth or a focus only on growth is not the answer. That is not what we want. What we want instead is we want a good, steady, healthy increase with the right people in a way that is nurturing the current people who have already said yes to us. And that's another thing that you really want to realize with this too, is while more of the right people is it is a good goal to have eventually when it's the right time. And while, yes, that of course can benefit your business, and of course this means that you get to impact more people, which is wonderful, they're also the hardest ones to convert, right? It's going to take you usually longer to convert a cold lead than a warm lead. And as a matter of fact, if I go and I look at my sales right now and I were to bring up profiles of my customers that spend the most money in my business, it is repeat customers. It's customers that's been in my world for a certain amount of time. They bought one thing and then they bought something else and then they bought something else and then they bought something else. So all of that to say, and by the way, I'm like, if you talk to any seasoned business owner, this is typically the case. So all of that to say, growing is fine. We're going to talk about how to do that. But one of the biggest mistakes that you can make is to be so focused on new and on somebody else or something else and take your eye off the prize, which is the current people who are already warm, who've already said yes to you, right? If you're not continuing to nurture them with new offers or really good content or whatever it is that you do, what they're going to do is they're not going to say, oh, she must be just trying to grow, so I'm going to give her a little bit. They're going to get distracted with somebody else's stuff. And if that person sells something that you sell, they're going to start buying from that person. And if that person does a good job keeping their leads and their people happy and cozy and engaged and, you know, having different ladders to bring them up and to continue with them on their path of whatever the goal is that they sell, you've lost that person. We don't want that. Okay. So we want to remember there's so much potential already there. I promise you. And you might be listening to this and you might be thinking, no, you're wrong. I have launched things. I've put things out there. Nobody ever buys. I don't get the engagement. And every time I put something out, it's too expensive, or it's not the right time, or whatever. Okay, then you need to tweak your offers. That's an offer problem. That's usually not an audience problem. The only time that it really, really is an audience problem is if maybe you started your account as one thing, as one business, and then you did a really, really big change. I'm not talking about a pivot into different pricing or maybe like different types of offers, but essentially for the same subject or the same niche. I'm talking like you went from one business that is not even complementary to the other business. Okay. And your audience is full of people who were from the first business. then in that case, possibly. But like I have a client or had a client, and what was it that hold on, let me try and think of this specific thing. She sold one thing. Let's just say, I'll just make it up. She was selling for a while, like skincare or something, and then she changed to health coaching. Let's just say that. That's a really good example. That's basically the same thing that she was doing. Okay, so she was selling this specific product, and then she shifted over to health coaching. And she was like, well, my business is so different, and I think I need new people. And it's like, but people that needed the skincare, they also could be interested in health coaching. No, right? Like you can have both. People want both. You just need to be patient with your messaging or direct with your messaging and make sure we got that down first. And usually with the people that I'm working with, when somebody comes to me and they're like, I think I need more people in my audience, and I go with them and we talk about it and we dig in and we really get to the root of what the issue is. Usually the issue is a content issue and a messaging issue. That's 9 times out of 10 what the issue is. And I know why this happens, because if you have a belief in your head that what you're doing isn't going to work, you're not going to try very hard to do it, or you're not going to be consistent, or you're going to maybe get a result that you don't want. And that's going to be a confirmation bias of what it is that you believe. So I see this a lot where somebody has a business and they pivot in some way, or they go to sell something and they're testing out different things and they don't get the results that they want, because they're comparing themselves to other people or whatever. And then they start to think to themselves, it's because my audience doesn't want this. It's because the audience is too small, or it's with the wrong people, or they're all broke, or none of them take their lives seriously. Whatever the thing is that we're telling ourselves. And if you really, really believe that, if you really don't believe that your people have the power to buy or afford whatever it is that you sell, then why would you continue to show up and create good content for them and build relationships with them and curate a different offer at a different price point and try that out with them? You wouldn't. That would be insane. So all I can say is this. I have seen more businesses than I can count have multi-million-dollar success in their business with very relatively small audiences. I'm talking anywhere from a few hundred just to like a couple to a few thousand people. I've seen multiple wildly successful businesses sell and be sustainable with what most of us would consider is a very, very small audience. You can have more. There's nothing wrong with that. You can want exactly what it is that you want. But what we don't want to do is to fall in that trap that does not serve you and telling yourself that the size of audience that you have right now cannot serve you, because you have to get started somewhere. There's not a way that you can just like poof, all of a sudden shift your whole audience around. And usually the answer too isn't to start like a brand new Instagram account. Okay. Like you got to start with what it is that you have. So unless you have a crazy scaled business model, like your goal is, okay, there are a couple of exceptions to this. If you are an influencer and you're ready to, you're like, okay, I need X amount of commissions really fast. I need X amount of engagement so that I can get these specific brand deals, right? You got these really big goals with your influencing. You want to get there fast. Then yeah, we need followers. But even then, because it's all clicks and commission and traffic, right? So even then though, there's not like this quick, snap and you have a ton of followers. Like it takes work to build that trust. And you're not, most of the time, unless you decide to run ads, your followers are going to come from your content. So you got to buckle down anyway and just start churning out content like it's your freaking job, because it is. Okay. So if you're an influencer, then yes, we need lots and lots of people. We need high numbers of people for you to hit large revenue goals, unless you want to do all brand deals. You know, we're not going to get into it. That would be like a whole other conversation. So influencing, that would be an exception. Another exception is if you are trying to build a business that's crazy scaled, right? Like you have super low ticket offers, and big goals, and we need like all those people to be, you know, I don't know. Let me think of an example. Like, let's say you want to scale an ebook or something, or like I just had Bree Groves on the podcast, and she's hitting almost. I mean, eventually she'll be at multi 6-figure months, but she's at 6-figure months right now with a $97 offer. Do the math. That's a lot of people. Okay. So if you have that type of business and you want to make that kind of money, then yes, we need numbers of people. So you better start churning out that content that's attracting in those people, or running ads that's attracting in those people. But if you're not in one of those two camps, the influencer or the super scaled camp, you can create offers that appease and work with the size audience that you have now. And I've done like my Money Moves Masterclass. I've done, many programs where we play with the numbers and we create high 5-figure months to close to 6-figure months with low to mid ticket offers, but multiple of them. You just got to be smart with it, right? You can have some low ticket offers, you can have some mid ticket offers and some high ticket offers, launch them, and take care of as many people in your audience as you can from different levels. You just got to know what you're doing as a business owner. How can you maximize the people that are there right now? So yeah, you can have the small ticket offer, and that's fine. You're going to get some sales from that. But if you have a couple of hundred people in your audience or a couple of thousand people, then we need to be creating some higher ticket stuff in the meantime, even if that's not your main goal in your business, so that you can be churning in or creating some revenue right now while you grow your audience. But it's got to be a simultaneous goal. Okay. So before we go any further on growth tips, because I'm happy to give them, let's first cover our bases. Let's slow down to speed up, because again, usually the issue isn't even the fact that you need to grow right now or grow. Like that's not the missing puzzle piece, but oftentimes you're not even ready for that level of growth that you think you are. Okay. And that could end up hurting your business instead of helping your business. So if you are ready to grow your audience and this is something that you really, really want to focus on, I want you to ask yourself these 3 questions and answer them honestly. And if you answer yes in all 3 of these, then great, you're off to the races. But if you answer no with any of them, please handle that first and then focus on the growth. It'll be way more worth your time this way. So the first question I want you to ask yourself, if you're wanting to grow, is do you have a brand that you are proud of and that you are ready to display to people who do not know you yet? Okay. So here's a really easy way to honestly ask yourself that question. If you put out a reel today and it went crazy viral to where all of a sudden millions of people were coming to your page all over the world, all different demographics, all different ages, and their eyeballs were on you, how would you feel about that? I'm going to be real with you. If that happened to me, and I've been in business since 2018, I'd be a little sad about it because there's things that I want to do to clean up my own brand. There's things that I'm working on and I'm preparing myself for and cleaning up for myself. Like I personally don't want to go viral yet because I feel like I'd probably miss out on a lot of people because I'm not ready to present myself to the world yet. You got to get started somewhere. I'm proud of what I've built. It's, like my coach says, growth and evolution over a lifetime. It's never going to be, quote, perfect, but if you're ready for exposure or if you're not quite there. So that's the first question I would ask yourself. Do you have a brand that you're proud of and that you're ready to display to people who do not know you yet? The second question to ask yourself, do you have your business ready for an influx of leads and customers? So if all of a sudden, let's say you go viral and people love what they see because your brand is on point and they want to buy from you, do you have the thing? Do you have the offer? Do you have the scalable offer? Do you have a funnel in place? Is there a way to capitalize on more leads and people flowing into your world so that when they're hot and they're ready to buy from you because you just went viral and just blew their mind, you're striking while the iron's hot versus not having the things in place. And then they say, okay, she's cool. And then they forget about you and they move on to the next person who does have their ducks in a row. Big question to ask yourself. Do you have your business ready for an influx of leads and customers? And then the third question to ask yourself is, do you have a system in place to be consistent and engage consistently? Do you have a team? Do you have the time? So again, if you go viral or you get an influx of people and people are DMing you or people are commenting on your stuff or they're just like, holy crap, like what you're doing is amazing. Do you have a system in place to keep that momentum up, or is it just going to be like a flash in the pan? So flash of the pan moments are cool, but wouldn't you wouldn't you rather have a big break versus a flash in the pan? You hear people talk about that, right? You hear people talk about, like, if you're looking at maybe somebody who's famous or somebody who's created like a ton of success, you often will hear them talk about their big break, like the moment that they were prepared. Their preparation met with this fateful moment where preparation meets opportunity. Wouldn't you rather that? Wouldn't you rather be prepared when the opportunity strikes so that's your moment versus like, oh yeah, that was cool, I went viral, but it kind of fizzled out because wasn't prepared. We don't want that. So again, like, it's not to say that you can't go viral again or whatever, but my issue is when people dedicate so much of their time and energy fishing for all of these new fish, and then they get the fish and they have nothing to prepare the fish with, right? They basically have to throw them out back into the wild because they don't have anything prepared to handle the new fish. Meanwhile, they've spent all of this time and focus on the new fish, that their old fish that were already there have died. They're not there anymore. They're paying attention to somebody else. Okay? So cover your bases first. Do those things. Get your brand in check. Get your systems in check. Have your business ready. And then let's focus on the growth. So the fastest way to grow on most platforms is through your content, through putting out good content. And I know that is not what you want to hear, but it's just the truth. Okay. I'm sure there's some like weird growth strategy out there. You know how there used to be like follow, unfollow? I doubt that's a thing anymore. Surely to God, people aren't still doing that. I'm sure there's something like some sort of, I don't know, that would kind of be like today's follow, unfollow. But even if there was a thing like that, I would not share it here because it's probably not smart. Okay. The smartest thing that you can do to grow the right people in the nice, steady way that we want to grow it, that's not going to hurt our ratio of engagement, that's not going to hurt our business, is through your content. And the cool thing about that is that it currently takes care of your people who are here. So it's two birds, one stone. Instead of, again, outwardly focusing and spending all of our time and energy trying to hunt for the new people, we're creating and curating really, really good content that's serving our people who are currently there right now really well, while also attracting in the new people at the same exact time. So I should look at my stats. I'll do that in just a second. I'll post this on Instagram the week that this goes out, but I'll go and I'll look at my Instagram stats, because for the past few weeks, I've been more consistent with Reels, and you know how I feel about Reels. I went through a season where I absolutely hated them, but I've kind of found my groove in them again, because what's working right now is pretty easy for me to make, like having a very simple B-roll video, 5 to 7 seconds long, put some text on the screen. You can automate it with ManyChat or not. And it works really well. And I can do that because it's not complicated. It doesn't take a ton of time. And I actually enjoy myself. So I've started doing these reels again a lot more consistently. And I've grown quite a bit from, just from reels. And the best part about it is, while these numbers aren't much to write home about, I mean, they're like maybe a couple hundred people in the past month, which is still pretty good. But the best part about it is these leads are exactly who I want to come in for the most part, because my content is focused, and you would not follow me unless you were interested in online business coaching and tactics and like the things that I share. And those are the people that are coming into my world. So the best thing that you can do, if you really want to grow with the right people so that you can continue to grow your business online, is to focus on creating really good content. Now, also, what I want to say with that too is, I don't like, when I say put out really good content, I don't mean go on Instagram, see what so-and-so's doing that's getting a ton of engagement, and then do exactly what they're doing. I think it's a good idea to get ideas on, okay, here's like the general vibe of what's working for everybody right now. Okay, lots of shorter videos, lots of text on the screen that disappears really fast because then people have to watch the reel over and over again. Okay, that's kind of working. Like, get a general feel for what's working for the most part, and then go make it your own in a way that feels really good for you. So a few months ago, the thing that was working on Reels were like all of those transitions, really long videos where, you're pointing to different things and you got to put a ton of text on the screen and you got to time things. And I just found it to be so exhausting, which is why I ended up kind of staying away from them. And still, I posted just static images, and that worked for me because I like to write, and it just like, the energy was behind it that worked just fine for my business. And now, again, because there's a little bit more simpler of a vibe that is converting on Reels, I'm into it again. I can do that. Cool. I don't want to be dancing. I don't want to be pointing at weird things that aren't there. I'm not trying to do the most on Instagram. I just want to get your attention so that you see that I know what it is that I'm talking about, with a call to action on how to get more of it that I'm talking about, so that you come into my world and you stay in my world. That's what I'm wanting to do. And that should be your goal too. But if you don't enjoy the type of content you're creating because you're trying to recreate somebody else's thing, then you're going to do it a couple of days and then you're going to fall off, and then it's not going to get you the result. And then you're going to think that what I'm talking about is full of baloney, when that's not the truth. It's just that you're not being consistent. So we have to have a level of discipline and commitment here too. Okay. This is a long game strategy. Okay, so past the point of our content, what are other ways that we can grow? So this is where we want to start considering collaborations. Now, in the same way that I said that growth needs to kind of be like the last thing on your to-do list, so you need to have the things in place before you grow, I would say the exact same things for collaborations, because by collaborating with somebody, you're going to cross market each other's audience. So it's literally, well, that's growth, right? So my point is it's the same thing. So make sure you have your ducks in a row. Make sure you have your content in check too. And that's churning, and that's taking care of your current audience and doing what it needs to do. And then let's talk about what some collaborations, some strategic collaborations could look like. So again, all a collaboration is you partnering with somebody in some way to cross-market each other's stuff. So it doesn't necessarily mean that both of you have to be pimping each other out, but it's a collab nonetheless. Okay. So there's a few ways that you can do this that's going to help you grow your audience. And I feel like the best way to do this would be to think of 1 to 3 topics that you could riff on, that you could teach, or that you could talk about that would appeal to somebody else's audience. So the people that we're looking to collaborate with are people that have audiences that we also want. Okay. So if you create something or have something to sell that is for just women in general, or a certain demographic of women, then we want to partner with somebody with that specific audience or a very, very similar audience. Otherwise, what's the point of the collaboration? And you also want to make sure too that you guys don't have competing businesses. Now, if you guys have a good relationship, then you might not even care, right? Like I have mastermind members, I have clients who I've brought on the podcast that technically you could probably consider as competitors, but like, who cares? If you have an abundance mindset, whatever, the more the merrier. But anyway, like usually, especially if you're pitching this to people that you don't have a super great connection to yet, then yeah, you kind of want to make sure that there's like not any competitive spirit there. I don't know, just feel into it. But we're looking for that person that has the type of audience that we want to cross market with. I used to say too, when I used to teach growth strategies for Instagram, one of the things that I used to teach too was to make sure that if you're pitching yourself for a collaboration with somebody, that you guys have a similar audience size so that it's mutually beneficial. So if you have a couple thousand followers and you're pitching yourself for a collaboration with somebody with a few million followers, then it's kind of like, what's in it for me? But it also depends on what you guys are doing together anyway. So like one growth strategy that I used to teach years ago were Instagram story takeovers, which is where, let's say like you and I were doing this together and we would pick a day, and like one day you would come onto my stories and that same day I would go onto yours, and we'd take over each other's stories. And I'd be like, hey, yeah, I'd come onto your stories and be like, hey, Allie Reeves here. This is what I do. And today I'm going to teach you blah, blah, blah. Or I'm going to share with you 3 ways to do blank. You know, you don't really see a lot of these anymore, but hey, we could bring them back. I feel like if they're well done, it could work really well. But with something like that, where 2 people are participating for the purpose of cross-marketing with each other, then yeah, usually you want to make sure that there's like an equal-ish playing ground so that, again, it's mutually beneficial. But if you don't want to go that route, then what I recommend doing is going the route of pitching yourself as like somebody who can bring a topic to somebody else's audience that other person wouldn't normally talk about, right? Like pitch yourself as an expert for that person. So for example, let's say I was wanting to do this myself and I was wanting to collaborate with a few people so that I could get in front of their audience, maybe bring some of them over to my world because we weren't competitors. So Obviously, what I bring to the table are online business tips and, mindset and the things that I talk about. So I would think of a few people that don't talk about those things, but who has audiences that would be interested in learning those things. So the first person that comes to mind is Colleen Nichols. Okay. We kind of did this together because she has DSGC, which is this huge group of people. And she was looking for experts in different areas to help train her people. So while she knows a ton about business and she talks a lot about business, I do it in my own way. So I would come into her group and I would share tips and ways to utilize Instagram and how to grow on Instagram and grow your business in different ways on social media platforms. And it served her people, right? They got that expertise. She was able to set that up and make them happy because I'm giving them something that she normally wouldn't talk about. And at the same time, I'm putting myself in front of a brand new set of people. So how could you do that yourself? Like if there was something that you could riff on or that you could teach, what would those things be? And how would you present this who would you present this to? Who would be these people? And that's what I recommend doing. I recommend making a list start with 3 people, right? Let's start small. Who are 3 people that you're like, okay, I would love, I feel like they would love for me to come and talk on this specific thing or share how to do this really cool thing that I know how to do. So you can, as far as how you present this to their audience, there's a few ways. So you could pitch this as you guys could go live together on Instagram or on Facebook or wherever, and you could teach or whatever. You guys could do it that way. You could take over their stories. You could, if the person has a podcast, obviously you could come on their podcast and talk about it in that way. Another way that this works really well is if you know somebody who has maybe a Facebook group of people or some sort of mastermind or some sort of group that regularly has people come in, experts come in and share different things that the owner or the creator or the founder of that group normally wouldn't share. That would be a great way to do it too. Hey, I know you have a mastermind. If you're looking for experts, I would love to come in and teach your people this or talk to your people about that. Okay. So this is such a great way, not only to demonstrate what it is that you do, but to get yourself in front of new people and bring them over to your side. Because if you do this, you always want to lead or end with a call to action. Hey, I'm Allie Reeves. If you enjoyed this, come follow me over at Allie I. Reeves on Instagram, or I have a freebie for you. If you want the freebie, go to this link and blah, blah, blah. That's the smartest thing that you can do, because then they go get the freebie and now they're opted into your email list and you can market to them and you can get them on your Instagram and they're already, in a funnel or whatever. So that is a really, really smart way to grow right now it's been a really smart way to grow. And again, there's so many different ways that you can do that. Like I said, through a live or through a story takeover or, a Zoom call or podcast interview, summit. You could even maybe partner on an email or something. There are so many different ways to do this. You can definitely have fun with it, but that's a great way to grow is through those collaborations. And then of course, getting on podcasts, that would kind of be a next level way, kind of a step up from your average collaboration would be to get yourself and to pitch yourself on a podcast. We'll talk about pitching in just a second. But again, obviously, if you're going to get on somebody's podcast, you need to have your stuff ready to even get a yes from them, but also to capitalize on the potential attention that's going to come your way. And then past those organic strategies, then we would feel into ads. And I'm not saying you have to go the organic route. I'm not saying like before you can do ads, you got to exhaust all other avenues first. Not what I'm saying at all. We need to cover our bases first, like we talked about, and then do what you want. But I would say past those very simple collaboration ideas, and then, of course, using your content to attract new people. After that, the real only safe way to grow that's non-organic would be through running ads and bringing in cold leads that way, which is great. A great idea if that's your thing. Okay. So let's talk about, and let's end this with tips on how to pitch yourself. So if you are pitching yourself for a collaboration, right? Like Instagram takeover, live, something that's pretty chill, and you know the person, I see nothing wrong than shooting the person a DM on Instagram. Or obviously, if you have their number, shooting them a text. Hey girl, had this idea. I know you have blah, blah, blah mastermind. I don't know if you ever have experts in there. But as you know, I teach on blah, blah, blah. And I've really been loving talking about this specific topic. And if your people would be interested in learning about it, I'd be more than willing to offer a free training to your group. Let me know when, or if that's a good fit for you. Boom. Keep it short. Keep it sweet, and keep it framed around what is in it for them. Okay. Don't come at it like, hey girl, as you know, since the age of 3, I've just been like madly passionate about, it's like, okay, what are we doing here? Stay focused and position it with, hey, I know you have blank, or I know one of your goals is blank. Here's how I can support you. In my opinion, you're way more than likely to get a yes. You're asking them a favor. Okay. Keep it short, keep it sweet, keep it cute. If you do not know the person, if you guys have never DM'd before, or if this is somebody who maybe is a bit more established, maybe it's more of like a professional approach that you're going for, a professional experience that you're going for, then I would recommend finding on their team, like the person to email. Maybe they have an email on their Instagram, or you can like do some Googling, figure it out. Who on their team do you need to reach out to make this happen, and send an email. And just start with, like, I was listening to a podcast today and they said this, and I would agree with it so much. Like when you're pitching yourself to somebody, just get to the point. Don't start with a backstory. Okay. Just get to the point of like, hey, this is what I do. This is what I can bring to you. If you want to know any more background on me, happy to send it. But is this something you're interested in? In my opinion, I would really appreciate that approach versus like a super long-winded situation. Now, for podcasts, this is going to be a little bit different. Oh, and let me say one more thing for the collaborations. When you reach out to them, I personally recommend giving a couple of super specific ideas on things that you want to talk about. But I don't just mean like, I could talk about self-love and mindset and confidence. It's like, how though? Like how do you plan to talk about self-love? How do you whatever? So I would recommend getting way more specific. So I would recommend coming to them and saying, hey, I'm a self-love expert, and here are a few topic ideas that I feel like your audience might be super interested in. Let me know. And I'm also open to your ideas. I could talk about 3 ways to increase self-love to expand your business. The number 1 self-love practice that will ruin your life. Like get specific here, because that, like one of those, or maybe even all of them, are going to pique their interest, and they're going to know really quickly whether it's a yes or a no. And you're probably more likely to get a response at that point too. Now for podcasts, this is very similar, but I'm going to give you a very specific approach because this is the only thing that has ever worked for me in pitching a podcast. Okay. And I'm going to give it to you. So when you pitch a podcast, again, I would follow the rule of thumb that if you know the person, if you've had a conversation with the person, you guys have a rapport and it's appropriate just to send a quick message or a text. Cool. Now, if this person has a team that supports them with their podcast and you know that maybe they have like a manager or an agent, like if they have a really big podcast with like the whole shebang, then you probably need to go more formal and reach out to the team and go that angle. But if you have rapport, try the text, try the message, and the same approach. Hey, I know you have a podcast. You serve these type of people. If you're ever looking for guests or ever looking for topic ideas, I would love to join you and bring X conversation to the table. Here are a few angles we could talk about it, but I'm also open to your ideas. Thank you for your time. Easy, easy peasy. Now, if you don't know this person, or again, it's the team thing and you need to send an email, send an email. But I will say this, and this is just me, okay? And I'm a unique person because I'm weird about emails and I'm just weird about communication in general. Okay, so this is certainly not everybody's experience and how everybody feels about what I feel about. But I will say I get somewhere between 5 and 10 podcast topic pitches a week. Okay, a week from people that I do not know, people that I've never heard of, or maybe have like kind of heard about them, or they're being shopped around the podcast circuit. And it's the same approach, right? And it's usually from their team. Hey, Allie, are you interested in da 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 da? And it's like, I don't even read it at this point. If I don't know the person, I'm not hurting for guests. Like, I have an incredible network of women and people that cover pretty much all the bases of the things that I plan and that I want to talk about. So if I need somebody who wants to talk about ayahuasca, or if I need somebody to talk about blowing up a business, I've got plenty of people to do that. So I'm not really jonesing to hook up with Brad Anderson, who lives in Milwaukee, who grew a gym and sold it for $1 billion. Like, I'm happy for Brad Johnson, but I don't care. So anyway, all of that to say, like, I'm not reading these emails because the approach is all the same and I don't know the person and I'm just not hurting for guests. So this approach probably works really well for podcasts that are churning out guest episodes like it's their job and they're trying to pre-record 1,000,000 months in advance and they're just looking for any Tom, Dick, or Harry to come on because they need the episodes. In that case, you're probably going to get a response. Maybe. If you have a good enough pitch. But I will say this is the one type of pitch that I opened and that I responded to in the affirmative to get this person on my show, because this was the approach they took. And I highly recommend you adopt it. And it may not work every time, but I can guarantee you it will get your email opened. Okay. So this is what this genius did. I got an email. And the subject line of the email was, I just left you a review for your podcast. So instantly I'm like, what did you say? Like, my heart drops. Oh God, what did you say? So I opened the email and right there at the top is a screenshot of this gorgeous review that the person did submit. I ended up seeing it on Apple a couple days later. And it was just a beautiful review. And it wasn't super long, but I could tell like it wasn't super fluffy and generic. The person listened to an episode and gave me really nice, thoughtful feedback, and it was a great review. And then they said, hey, I really like what you're doing. I really love how you care about these things. And because of that, I see how I could fit in as a potential guest for you. This is who I am, very short. Like, this is what I do. Here's what I love to talk about. what I'm an expert at. Here are, he gave me like bullet points of topic ideas. They were super, super specific. So I could like really see if one would work for y'all or if we could work with one. And then he said, my bio's below. If I'm a good fit, I would be honored to be on your show. If not, no worries. I still love what you're doing. Have a great day. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? What a genius. What a genius. Okay. So you bet your butt, I responded immediately, thanked him for the review. And I said, hey, I don't know who you are, but get your butt on the show. I'd love to have you. I love this topic idea. My people would love that topic idea. Let's go. And then do you know what happened? He ghosted me. I never heard from him again. He must have sent, but that was probably his strategy, right? He probably spent a few hours doing that with the podcast that made the most sense for him. It definitely took him more time, than creating just like one flat copy paste email that you send out to a million different podcasters, hoping for a couple of yeses. He took the time and then something got lost, or maybe he decided he didn't want to be on my show anymore. I don't know. But either way, the approach was beautiful. And I tell this to people anytime people come to me and ask me about podcast pitches. I share this every single time because it was chef's kiss stunning. And again, not everybody operates like me, but it got my attention and it was an instant yes. And I just appreciated it. So anyway, highly recommend you try something like that. And another thing I'll like when it comes to pitches is I do like a gentle consistency or a gentle push, like a gentle, like if you don't get a response from me, I appreciate somebody who's like, hey, popping back in, would still love to be on your show. I know you're busy, whatever. Like it doesn't work all the time, but if it's the right person, you catch me on the right day, I appreciate that. Hey, I admire your level of commitment to wanting to be on the show. Let's get you on the show. So I think having a strategy in place to follow up, especially if it's a show that you're like, oh my God, I would do anything to be on there. You really love the creator of it. Keep shooting your shot. Why not? Be a pest, but in a nice way. Be a nice pest, a gentle pest. Okay. So all of those things when combined, good content, some light strategic collaborations, whether it's on Instagram, whether it's a podcast, whether it's even like a magazine or, some sort of partnership or ads. These are all things that you can do to grow your audience with the right people at the rate that's going to make sense for you and your business. But first and foremost, if you do not have a brand that you are proud of and you're ready to display to people that don't know you yet, and you don't have your business ready for an influx of leads and customers, and you don't have a system in place to be consistent and to keep engaging consistently with the people that are there and the new people that are coming in, then your problem is not growth. Your problem is your business and the state of your business or level of consistency or long game mentality. Okay. But the cool thing is all is fixable. So I hope this episode was helpful for you. If it was, I would be honored if you would leave me a 5-star review on iTunes so that we can continue to support other women with this type of information. Take a screenshot, tag me in your stories so I can share it. However you decide to share this, I'm just greatly appreciative. Okay, so thank you for your time. I love you, and I will see you here next week. Bye.